The street is empty. The silence of the night presses down on everything. The only sound is the soft rhythm of footsteps echoing against the asphalt, breaking the quiet. Jamal, a man of quiet strength, walks home, his eyes fixed forward, trying to ignore the weight of the world that follows him. His worn shoes click steadily with each step, a rhythm that has become his lifeline to normalcy, to peace. For Jamal, every step feels like a small rebellion against a world that's constantly told him he's less than. As he rounds the corner, the low hum of a car engine breaks through the stillness. Suddenly, headlights cut through the darkness, glaring and blinding. The car slows, pulling alongside him. Jamal instinctively tenses, but doesn't look up. The officer inside watches him without a word, just a cold stare that speaks volumes. Jamal's heart races, not because of the car itself, but because of what it represents. The system that's always kept him in check, always looked at him with suspicion. Jamal swallows hard, feeling the familiar pang of fear claw at his chest. This isn't the first time this has happened, but it always feels the same. It always feels like this moment might be his last. And yet, he walks forward. He has no choice. He is tired of living in fear. Tonight, something feels different. A weight in his chest that is heavy, but something else stirring inside him. His hand instinctively tightens around his wallet in his pocket, and his mind races. Is tonight the night he finally stands up? Jamal, to himself, his voice barely a whisper. Why does it always have to be me? Why does every step I take feel like I'm walking on a tightrope? One wrong move, and it's over. The officer rolls down the window, the chilling sound of the glass scraping against the metal breaking the night's silence. The officer doesn't speak right away, his eyes boring into Jamal with a look that feels like a question and an accusation. Jamal knows what's coming next. He's been here before. But tonight, something inside him shifts, and he refuses to feel powerless. Officer Blake, coldly, with a sense of authority. Where are you headed? Jamal pauses, his breath catching. The question feels ordinary enough, but in his gut, it's already loaded with judgment. His mouth dries as he opens it to speak, his voice trembling slightly but carrying more weight than he expected. Jamal, his voice shaky but firm. Just home. It's late. The officer's gaze never wavers. Jamal stands still, trying not to let the tension show, but it's impossible to hide. He knows that if he stumbles here, even just once, the consequences could be worse than anything he's prepared for. The officer's next words carry the weight of years of fear, discrimination, and constant surveillance. Officer Blake, eyes narrowing, voice sharp. Let's see some ID. Jamal stands there, the weight of the officer's stare pressing into him. His heart is still pounding, the rhythm matching the sound of his shoes that had once felt so steady beneath him. But now every step he takes feels different, like he's walking on fragile ground. He feels the officer's eyes on him like a predator circling its prey, ready to pounce at the slightest provocation. Jamal wants to look away, to ignore the suffocating tension building between them, but he knows that doing so would only make things worse. Officer Blake, voice harsh, looking at Jamal's hands. Don't make any sudden movements. Keep your hands where I can see them. Jamal nods silently, his fingers tightening around his wallet in his pocket. The last thing he wants is to make any kind of wrong move. He's done this dance before too many times with other officers in other places. But tonight, something's different. The fear he's always felt seems more distant, like a memory he's pushing away. His body still trembles slightly, but his mind is racing, faster than his heartbeat. Why does it always have to be like this? He thinks. Why do they see me as a threat? Jamal, whispering under his breath, just for himself. I just want to go home. I've done nothing wrong. His words, though quiet, feel like a defiance, small but powerful. It's the first time in a long time he's allowed himself to say them out loud. I've done nothing wrong. The words taste bitter, as if they've been trapped in his throat for years, locked away by fear. His mind drifts to his mother, Tina, who always told him to keep his head down, to stay out of trouble. But not tonight, Jamal thinks. Tonight is different. Jamal feels the familiar tightness in his chest again, as Officer Blake's cold eyes linger on him. The officer's gaze shifts from Jamal's hands to his face, as if weighing him up, trying to decide if he's worth the trouble. Jamal knows that look. He's seen it too many times, the suspicion, the distrust, the judgment. It's not just about a traffic stop. It's about the constant reminder that, for someone like Jamal, every move is scrutinized, every action judged. No matter what he does, no matter how much he tries to prove he's just like anyone else, he will always be viewed as a threat. Officer Blake, finally speaking, voice still cold but with a hint of curiosity. "You don't seem like you belong around here." The words hit Jamal like a slap in the face. I don't belong? The notion that he, a man who has spent his entire life in this city, is somehow out of place, is almost too much to bear. He wants to snap back, to say something sharp, but the words catch in his throat. His mother's voice echoes in his mind. "Don't cause trouble, Jamal. Just get home safe." The desire to stay safe, to avoid making things worse, pulls at him. But tonight, it's not enough to stay quiet. It's not enough to swallow his anger. Jamal, steadily, his voice low but firm. "I've lived here my whole life. I'm just trying to get home." The officer steps closer, his body language imposing. Jamal can feel the heat rising in his chest as Officer Blake's presence looms over him. He knows what this feels like, being watched, being treated like a criminal without cause. He knows the danger of stepping out of line, of saying the wrong thing, of making the wrong move. But tonight, something has changed. Tonight, he feels a fire inside him, a small but burning flame of defiance. The silence between them stretches. Jamal's mind is a whirl of thoughts, his mother's warnings, the years of trying to keep his head down, of staying out of trouble. He wants to shrink back, to comply, to avoid conflict. But the words, "I'm just trying to get home," feel like a declaration now. A small declaration, but a declaration of his right to exist, to live without fear. Jamal finally raises his chin, looking the officer in the eye, no longer with fear, but with quiet strength. Tonight, he knows, he's not just walking home. He's standing up for something bigger than himself. The air feels thicker now, like the world is holding its breath. Jamal stands there, still locked in that moment, his heart pounding with a ferocity he can't shake off. He watches as Officer Blake takes a long, deliberate look at the ID, his eyes scanning it as though searching for something to justify the encounter. The silence stretches between them, thick and suffocating. Jamal's grip on his wallet tightens, the cold leather grounding him as the officer's gaze flickers back to his face. His stomach churns. "Officer Blake," his voice more clipped now, an edge to it. "Why are you out here so late? You live around here, but something doesn't seem right." Jamal feels a sudden wave of nausea. Something doesn't seem right? The accusation is implied, though not directly spoken. It's the look, the assumption that he doesn't belong. It's always there, always hovering over him like a cloud that refuses to dissipate. The thought that just being in the wrong place, at the wrong time, could lead to him being treated like a criminal is maddening. But instead of shrinking back, Jamal stands taller, his voice shaking, but filled with resolve. Jamal, fighting to keep his voice steady, his hands still visible. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just walking home from work. I've been walking these streets for years." Officer Blake, narrowing his eyes, his voice turning cold. "Funny, because people like you don't just walk around here late at night unless they're up to no good. What were you really doing?" Jamal's chest tightens. The words feel like a slap. "People like you." He's heard those words before, not just from this officer, but from others who've made assumptions about him based solely on the color of his skin. The anger he's been holding back for years surges forward, but he knows he can't let it control him. He has to keep it together. The consequences of losing control are too severe. Jamal, his voice rising, the frustration building inside him. "I live here. I don't owe you an explanation. All I'm doing is going home after work." The officer steps closer, invading Jamal's space, his tone turning more aggressive. "Officer Blake," voice low and threatening. "Stay calm, boy. You don't want this to escalate." Jamal's breath catches. "Boy." The word cuts through him like a knife, pulling at the raw wounds he's carried for so long. But instead of retreating, Jamal squares his shoulders, his fists clenching at his sides. He feels it now, something deep inside him breaking free. This isn't just about walking home anymore. This is about his right to exist without being judged, without being seen as a threat. He won't be silenced, not anymore. Jamal, his voice firm, despite the shaking in his hands. "You don't get to call me that. You don't get to treat me like I'm nothing." For the briefest moment, there's a flicker of hesitation in the officer's eyes. Jamal can see it, the doubt, the questioning of his own actions. But it's gone almost immediately, replaced by something colder, harder. The officer takes another step forward, his hand hovering near his gun holster, ready to make the situation escalate. Officer Blake, through gritted teeth, growling. "You're asking for trouble, aren't you? You really think you're gonna walk away from this without consequences?" The threat hangs heavy in the air, and Jamal feels a cold sweat break out on the back of his neck. The officer's hand is inches away from his holster, and for a moment, Jamal thinks it's all about to spiral out of control. He knows that one wrong move could mean disaster. He feels the fear gnaw at him, but it's not the overwhelming fear of before. It's different now. He's afraid, yes, but he's also angry. Angry at the years of injustice, the years of holding his tongue. Tonight, he has had enough. He steps back, eyes locked on Officer Blake's, his voice a defiant whisper in the night. Jamal fiercely but controlled. Go ahead. Make your move. But you won't break me. There's a long moment of silence. The officer stares at him, and Jamal stares back. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife. Jamal's hands are still in plain view, his heart pounding in his chest, but his mind is clear. He's no longer just reacting, he's making a choice. And with that choice comes a feeling of power he hasn't felt before. The officer steps back, his gaze still cold, but for a brief moment, Jamal sees the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. The weight of the moment lingers in the air between them, and Jamal knows that this is more than just a confrontation. It's a moment that could change everything. The grip on Jamal's arm tightens, and the pressure of the officer's hand against his skin is like an anchor pulling him into a sea of helplessness. He can feel the cold metal of the police car pressing into his chest, his body rigid, his breath shallow. The air between them is thick, suffocating. He tries to breathe through it, but his lungs feel constricted, as though the very act of breathing has become an act of defiance. Officer Blake, growling, his voice seething with impatience. Get against the car. Now. Jamal's heart is hammering in his chest, but he doesn't move immediately. His mind is screaming to just comply, to not make it worse, to not escalate this. He's seen it before, how one wrong move can lead to violence, can lead to more than just the sting of handcuffs. But tonight, something is different. Jamal feels the weight of his years of silence press against him, like a weight he's been carrying for too long. And for the first time, he lets it all spill out. Jamal, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and rage. I haven't done anything wrong. Why are you treating me like this? What have I done to deserve this? The words feel like a scream trapped in his throat, an accusation, a challenge. He's tried to keep quiet for so long, tried to follow the rules that were supposed to keep him safe. But now, with Officer Blake's hand still on him, something inside him snaps. He doesn't care if he's outnumbered, doesn't care if the officer's badge represents a power he can't fight on his own. This is what Jamal has been fighting his entire life. The feeling of being judged for no reason, of being seen as a threat simply because of the color of his skin. Tonight, he's had enough. Officer Blake, stepping closer, his breath hot and angry against Jamal's face. You think you can talk to me like that and get away with it? You think you're special? Jamal takes a deep breath, his fists clenched at his sides. His body is shaking, not from fear but from a raw, unfiltered rage that he's never allowed himself to feel this intensely before. The anger that's been simmering for years, the countless times he's been judged, the times he's been forced to keep his head down, to comply, to shrink in the face of injustice, now erupts like a tidal wave. He won't stay silent anymore. He can't. Jamal, his voice rising, a sharp edge of defiance in his words. I'm not special. I'm not a criminal. But I'm not going to let you treat me like this anymore. I'm done being your target. I'm done being afraid. The officer hesitates for a moment. Jamal can see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, a brief moment of hesitation. But then it's gone, replaced by something colder, more violent. The officer's hand moves closer to his baton, a warning that Jamal knows all too well. Officer Blake, gritting his teeth, voice low and threatening. Don't make me teach you a lesson. You're just asking for trouble. Jamal feels the heat rising in his chest, the fight or flight instinct pushing him to either run or stand his ground. His mind races. He knows how this ends for people like him, how it's ended for too many. But tonight, he's not running. He's not backing down. This is the moment he's been waiting for, even if he didn't know it. This is the moment where he chooses not to be silent anymore. Jamal, yelling now, his voice filled with the power of years of suppressed frustration. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not your criminal. I won't be your punching bag anymore. The officer looks at him, his expression a mix of disbelief and anger. For a brief second, Jamal sees the officer's hand stop mid-motion, hovering over the baton. The moment hangs in the air like a threat of violence ready to be unleashed. But Jamal stands tall, his chest heaving with anger and defiance. In that silence, something shifts, not in the officer but in Jamal. For the first time in his life, he realizes that the power isn't in the badge, the gun, or the baton. The power is in his voice, in his refusal to be treated like less than. It's in the fight that's been inside him all along, waiting to break free. Jamal, breathing heavily, his voice steady and strong. You can't break me. I've been broken enough. Not anymore. Jamal's words hang in the air between them, heavy with finality. He's no longer the man who cowers, who keeps quiet to avoid confrontation. Tonight, he's the man who speaks out, the man who says, enough. The tension in the air is thick, almost unbearable. Jamal can feel the officer's gaze boring into him, cold and hostile. His hands are still pressed against the police car, but his mind is racing, his heart pounding like a drumbeat in his chest. The weight of the situation presses on him, each second stretching longer than the last. His breath comes in shallow bursts, but it's not from fear anymore. It's from something else, rage. The quiet, simmering anger that has been building inside him for years now surges to the surface. He can't hold it back anymore. He won't. Officer Blake, his voice now harsh, low, almost mocking. You think you're going to get away with this? You really think I'm just going to let you talk to me like that? The words strike Jamal like a slap, but they don't faze him. Not anymore. He's heard this before, the same threats, the same intimidation. He's seen it happen to others, to people who didn't have the courage to stand up for themselves. But tonight, he's not backing down. Tonight, he won't be silenced. Jamal, his voice filled with emotion, a tremor of both fear and defiance. I'm not getting away with anything. I'm not your criminal. I'm not your problem. I'm just trying to go home. The words spill out of him before he even realizes it. He can't hold them back any longer. The injustice, the way he's been treated every time he steps outside, every time he's looked at with suspicion, it's too much. For once, he won't let someone else decide who he is. He gets to decide that. Officer Blake, leaning in closer, his tone menacing. You're making this a lot harder than it needs to be. You don't know who you're messing with. Jamal can feel the officer's breath on his face, the heat of his anger, but it's nothing compared to the fire burning inside him. He's had enough. All his life, he's been told to keep his head down, to stay out of trouble, to not rock the boat. But tonight he's not doing that. Tonight, he's standing up. He's not going to let someone else dictate his life, not anymore. He won't be afraid. Jamal, his voice rising, filled with conviction. No, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of your badge. I'm a man just like you. I deserve to be treated like one. The words are louder now, stronger, as if each one is tearing down the walls that have kept him silent for so long. Officer Blake hesitates for a split second, the smallest flicker of doubt in his eyes. But it's quickly replaced by anger. He steps forward, his hand inching closer to his gun holster, the threat clear. Officer Blake, through gritted teeth. You really think you can talk to me like that and get away with it? I could have you on the ground in seconds. You're pushing your luck. Jamal's body tenses, but he doesn't back down. His mind flashes to the countless people he's seen on the news, the countless lives taken, the countless stories of people just like him who were treated like they were nothing. He thinks about his own mother, Tina, who told him to keep quiet, to stay out of trouble. But tonight, Jamal knows, he can't stay silent anymore. Jamal, shouting now, his voice filled with the years of hurt and frustration. Not tonight. Not anymore. I'm done being your target. You can't break me. The words hit the officer like a punch, and for the first time, Jamal sees the officer falter. It's a brief moment, but it's enough. The officer's hand stops mid-motion, hovering over his baton, his gaze shifting between Jamal and the scene around them. There's a crack in the officer's armor, a flicker of uncertainty, and for the briefest moment, Jamal knows he's won. Jamal stands taller, his chest rising and falling with the weight of his words. He's not just standing up to the officer anymore. He's standing up for himself, for all the people who have been silenced, for all the people who have been treated like less than. This moment is more than just a confrontation. It's the beginning of something bigger. It's the start of a fight for justice. The night air feels colder now, the weight of the moment pressing on Jamal's chest as he stands there, still facing Officer Blake. His breath is ragged, but his body, though tense, is no longer as fragile as it was just moments ago. Something has shifted within him, something he didn't know was there. It's as if, with every word he spoke, he peeled back layers of fear he's been carrying for as long as he can remember. Tonight, he's not the same man who walked into this situation. Tonight, he feels a power coursing through him that he didn't know he had. Jamal takes a slow, steadying breath, his gaze never leaving Officer Blake. The officer stands a few feet away, still looking at Jamal with anger, his hand hovering near his holster, but Jamal sees something different in his eyes. Doubt. For the first time, Jamal doesn't feel like a target. He feels like a man, standing his ground, taking up space in a world that's always told him to shrink, to be less, to stay quiet. The weight of years of being told he was less than suddenly feels lighter, as though it's been lifted off his shoulders, even if only for a moment. His shoulders square, and he raises his chin slightly. Jamal isn't just walking away from this encounter, he's walking into something more, the beginning of his own freedom. Jamal, voice steady but strong. I don't care what you think about me. I'm not afraid anymore. There's a beat of silence. The air is still, and the moment seems to stretch, a tension hanging in the space between them, thick and heavy. The officer's eyes flicker for a split second, and Jamal can see the uncertainty in his stance. The officer's grip on his baton loosens slightly, as if he doesn't know how to react to this defiance. But Jamal isn't waiting for permission anymore. He's done asking for the space to exist. He's taking it. The officer's face tightens, his jaw clenching, but Jamal doesn't flinch. He stands tall, not with the arrogance of someone looking to prove something, but with the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who's finally realized his worth. Officer Blake, voice cold, threatening. You should be careful what you say. I could make things difficult for you. Jamal's stomach churns, but not from fear. The officer's words are empty, hollow threats that have no weight anymore. Jamal realizes it now. His silence, his compliance, that's what made him easy to control. But tonight, he is broken free. Jamal, his voice soft, but filled with authority. You don't scare me. You can't scare me anymore. You'll do what you do, but you won't break me. The officer steps back slightly, his eyes narrowing. There's still hostility in his stance, but Jamal notices the hesitation, the brief flicker of uncertainty in the officer's gaze. It's the smallest shift, but to Jamal it's everything. He's won. Not by force, not by violence, but by standing his ground, by refusing to be anything less than what he is. A human being, deserving of respect, deserving of dignity. Officer Blake, grudgingly, still trying to assert control. You'd better get out of here before this gets worse for you. Jamal doesn't back down. He stands firm, his body still, his heart pounding, but with a steadiness he hasn't felt before. The fear that used to control him is gone. This is his moment. His choice. Jamal, quietly with finality. I'm going home, and you're not going to stop me. With that, Jamal takes a deep breath and turns, his steps measured but confident. He doesn't look back at Officer Blake. The night stretches out before him, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like an obstacle. It feels like his path forward, a path he can walk on his own terms. The officer says nothing more, but Jamal can feel the change in the air, the subtle shift from confrontation to resolution. As he walks away, he feels a weight lifted from his shoulders. Not all at once, but enough to know that he's no longer the person he was when he first stepped onto this street. He's not a victim of the system anymore. He's someone who will fight for himself, for his rights, and for those who are still silenced. The night is still heavy, still uncertain, but it feels different now. Jamal feels different now. Jamal's footsteps echo in the quiet night, each step feeling more powerful than the last. The air is crisp, but it no longer feels suffocating. For the first time, the weight that has always hung over him seems a little lighter, though the fight ahead is far from over. As he walks away from the confrontation, his breath still comes in shallow bursts, but there's something different now. A shift, a realization. Jamal doesn't look back, though he knows the officer's eyes are still on him, his stance tense, as if ready to pounce at any moment. But Jamal has already made up his mind. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The fear that once paralyzed him, that kept him small and quiet, no longer holds sway. He's no longer running from the system. He's stepping into his own power. His mind races as he walks, the adrenaline still coursing through him. This wasn't just about tonight, he thinks. This is about every night. Every time I've had to hide who I am to avoid confrontation to stay safe. The idea that he's been living in fear all these years, suppressing his anger and frustration just to survive, it stings now. But it's a different kind of sting, one that feels like awakening, not defeat. He remembers his mother's voice, Tina's worried words always echoing in his mind. Jamal, don't cause trouble. Stay out of their way. Get home safe. For years, those words kept him from standing up, kept him from pushing back against the injustices that weighed down on him. But tonight, for the first time, he understands something deeper. Keeping his head down wasn't going to change anything. Staying silent wasn't going to protect him forever. The city streets stretch out before him, but it's not the same street he walked on just hours ago. The world around him feels different now, the air somehow lighter, as if Jamal has shifted the balance. The road is still uncertain, the future still a blur, but for the first time, he doesn't feel afraid of what's ahead. He knows there's a long way to go, but now he has the strength to walk it. As he walks, Jamal pulls out his phone and texts Marcus, his best friend, who had been worried ever since he heard about the incident. His fingers hover over the keys for a moment before he types, a small smile creeping onto his lips. Text from Jamal, "I'm good. I stood up to them. It's not over, but I'm not afraid anymore. I've got this." The words feel empowering, even as he types them, like he's finally owning his own story. He presses send and tucks the phone back into his pocket. His mind drifts briefly to his mother, to the conversation they'll have when he gets home. He can't imagine what she'll say, but he knows she'll see the change in him. She'll see that he's no longer the quiet, compliant son she's always protected. He's becoming something more, something that stands tall and unafraid. He knows the world isn't going to change overnight, but tonight he has changed. The shift inside him is subtle, but it's profound. He feels different, more powerful, more determined to take control of his life. He won't be silenced anymore. Jamal, thinking to himself, his voice steady. I won't let fear control me. I'm not just fighting for me. I'm fighting for everyone who's ever been told to stay quiet, to stay out of the way. I'm done with that. Jamal's eyes harden with resolve as he continues walking, each step more sure than the last. The future is still uncertain, but it doesn't matter anymore. He's ready to face it head-on. No more fear. No more silence. Jamal's footsteps slow as he walks further into the night, the city around him still quiet, yet strangely full of promise. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the cool night air, and the weight that has hung over him for so long feels just a little lighter. It's as though he's been walking under a cloud for years, but tonight, the sky feels just a bit clearer. Not because the world has changed, but because he has. Every step he takes feels heavier now, not from fear, but from the weight of the realization that he's only just begun this journey. There is still so much ahead, so many battles to fight, so much injustice to face, but the path ahead no longer feels impossible. It feels like something he can walk with his head held high, not because he's invincible, but because he has found his voice. His phone buzzes again, pulling him out of his thoughts. It's a message from Marcus. Text from Marcus. Yo, you good? Heard what went down. Just know you've got support. You're not alone in this fight. Jamal smiles, reading the words, feeling a warmth spread through him that had been absent just a few hours ago. The small acts of support, the people who see him as more than just the color of his skin, they're the ones who make this fight worth it. He's not doing this alone, and that thought strengthens him. He types back quickly. Text from Jamal. Thanks, man. I stood up. I'm not scared anymore. I'm doing this for all of us. He presses send and tucks his phone back into his pocket. The words are true. He's not scared anymore. And he's not just standing up for himself. He's standing up for every person who's ever been silenced, every person who's ever been treated like they don't belong. For his mother, Tina, who has always told him to keep his head down, to stay out of trouble. But tonight, he knows the fight is not about keeping quiet. It's about being heard. Jamal's mind drifts back to the encounter with Officer Blake. He remembers the heat of the officer's anger, the coldness in his eyes. He remembers the way he stood his ground. The officer hadn't been the only one who had hesitated. Jamal had hesitated too, but only for a second. That second, that small moment of doubt, had been the turning point. He had chosen in that moment to be heard. But the road ahead is long. This is only one battle in a much larger war. The system that made him feel small, that has tried to break him, is still there. He knows this won't be the last time he has to face it. There will be more nights like tonight, more moments of confrontation. But he also knows something now. The system can't break him if he refuses to let it. He will keep standing, keep fighting, and keep speaking out. Jamal's pace picks up, his steps more determined. He doesn't know what the future holds, but for the first time, he feels like he has control over it. He won't be a victim of the world's prejudice. He won't let his future be defined by fear. The road ahead is filled with uncertainty, but that's no longer a reason to stop moving. It's a reason to keep going. As he reaches the corner, he sees the lights of his apartment building in the distance. Home. It's not much, but it's his. It's where he can breathe, where he can rest, and where he knows he's safe for now. But he also knows it's more than that. Home is where the fight begins. He reaches his door and pauses for a moment before unlocking it. He takes one last breath, feeling the weight of everything that happened tonight. It's not just the physical exhaustion. It's the emotional toll of standing up and finally speaking his truth. He's ready to face whatever comes next. He knows the journey isn't over, but he's ready to take the first step. And for the first time in his life, Jamal feels like he's truly walking the path he's meant to walk. He steps inside, closing the door behind him. Tonight, he's not just going home, he's walking into his future. And the future, for the first time, feels like it's in his hands. From Jamal's journey, we learn a powerful lesson about the importance of finding and using one's voice in the face of injustice. Throughout his life, Jamal had been told to stay quiet, to keep his head down, and to avoid trouble. Like many of us, he was conditioned to believe that silence was the safest option. But as the story unfolds, we see Jamal stand up to the very system that had always silenced him. In the face of police hostility and discrimination, he makes a conscious choice. He will not be intimidated. In the pivotal moment when Officer Blake tries to break Jamal's spirit, something inside Jamal shifts. His internal struggle between fear and defiance reaches a breaking point. He chooses to speak up, not just for himself, but for everyone who has been pushed down, treated like less, simply because of their skin color. This moment of courage isn't born out of arrogance or bravado. It comes from a deep realization that silence does not protect him, and it does not bring about change. Jamal's story teaches us that change begins with one voice. It is a quiet but powerful act of defiance to say enough is enough, and refuse to remain silent when confronted with wrong. Even when the world tries to push us down, we have the ability to stand tall and demand respect. For those of us who have lived through years of hardship and struggle, Jamal's journey is a reminder that the fight for justice is not only about big battles. It's about small, brave moments where we choose not to be silenced anymore. We may not always win, but by speaking out, we take the first step towards change, for ourselves and for those who come after us. After reading Jamal's story, where he courageously chooses to stand up against discrimination despite the fear and risks, do you think that moments of personal defiance like these can inspire real change in society? Or do systemic issues require broader collective action? How do you think we can encourage more people to speak out and demand justice in their own lives? Share your thoughts, experiences, and let's discuss how we can all make a difference together.